Hey friends, Damian Mason coming at you from my barn here at the farm in Indiana to discuss the power of being offended and the reality that being a rural white American means you're the last minority in this country that can still be picked on, ridiculed, and maligned with complete impunity. I'm talking about, of course, the Aunt Jemima decision today that was announced by Quaker Oats, the maker of this 130-year-old brand. The pancake syrup bearing the name Aunt Jemima with this imagery is deemed to be offensive to African Americans, according to the company, so they're going to change the name, change the product, and move on happily down the road. That's their business. They're trying to make money, I understand. But they didn't do this purely out of business decisions. They did this because they were feeling the threat, because the organizations and activists were saying that they were offended, and then they essentially take control from that $67 billion per year revenue company, PepsiCo, which owns Quaker Oats, and change the dynamic. Now, a group of vocal activists just told PepsiCo what they're going to do. So why don't we do this in rural America? 19% of the population lives on 97% of the rural American landscape. Do you understand that? We have a whole bunch of space with very, very few people. Only 7% of our population works in agriculture, and only 1% of our population farms. So how are we portrayed as the minority? Well, not very well. Let's just say when I went to the grocery store to buy that Aunt Jemima and Quaker Oats, I walked down the bread aisle and I saw this. Anybody got your hillbilly bread on the shelf? Yeah, hillbilly bread. Good tasting, nourishing too, because a shoeless hillbilly with a cane pole, leaning back, eating a sandwich with poor grammatical skills and likely doesn't have any education at all is a way to sell bread. And somehow that's okay to be on the shelf. I'm a dairy farm kid from rural America. I've been seeing this my whole life. How do we portray farmers and agricultural people and rural people? Well, let's just think about how Hollywood does it. There's always the smart kid, right? The smart, street smart, savvy kid who's from New York and he's just tough. And then what's the rube? The rube is a kid from Iowa or Kansas, and he's dumb, and he gets taken advantage of because he doesn't know no better, because he's just a big dumb rube. We see this again and again and again. Stanford played Iowa, the University of Iowa and Stanford in a bowl game several years ago. I penned an article about this. And what did the very clever Stanford band do at halftime to ridicule Iowa? They played the Farmers Only theme song. Oh, and remember the Farmers Only, the dating website? Few years ago, before they got their marketing figured out, what was their imagery? They were trying to sell to farmers by putting a guy in bib overalls on a bucket outside of a machine shed saying he'd like to meet him a woman. You think I'm making this up? Go to your computer when you get done watching this video and Google farmer image. And guess what? The people of Getty Images, they will sell you this. This is photo stock. They'll sell you so you can use this for your own promotion, because doesn't that look like every farmer you know? Well, it doesn't look like any of the farmers I know. Farmers I know have millions of dollars of capital at risk. They are business people. They might be out there getting dirt on their hands when they're producing food for our country, but it doesn't mean they're dumb. Many of them have college degrees, and they run their enterprise like business people. They don't sure as hell look like this. Want to go one worse? Smirnoff, when they launched their new product a couple of years ago, this is the imagery they put out. It's offensive to me for a number of reasons. So here's the deal. Maybe we should start being offended out here in rural America, because it's very profitable to do so. Turns out the Wall Street Journal had an article just today about this subject. Yes, I can actually read the Wall Street Journal. I can even do it online. And guess what? I can use them big words that I read in there, because after all, I ate my hillbilly bread and got nourished so I could build me up a brain. The Quaker Oats Company is going to donate a minimum of $5 million over the next 5 years to support and engage with black communities, Quaker said. You want to talk about support and engagement? We could use some of that right out here in rural America, where we keep losing population, where our schools are actually getting more and more, shall we say, sparsely populated because we've got consolidation. We've lost factories. We have meth problems. We have diabetes because of the obesity issue. We have some problems out here. We could use a little support and engagement also. We could use high-speed internet. We could use this situation where finally you could get cell phone service in rural America. We could use a little support and engagement also. But by all means, keep offending us, because you know what we do in rural America? You know what we in agriculture do? We just put our heads down and keep on working. We don't mind if you go ahead and have your parties and dress like this and say you're a hick. Because after all, that's what we're doing out here, right? Just chewing on straw and being dumb out here in rural America. I'm 50 years old. I've never chewed on straw. I don't know why the hell you would, and I've never worn bib overalls, at least not since childhood. I'm Damian Mason. Thanks for tuning in. It's time that we in rural America, who produce the food, who do the backbone work of this country, start being a little bit offended about the way we're portrayed.